Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. Today we are celebrating version 13 release of Angular. Just came out on Wednesday, I believe late in the evening, or well, it depends on what your time zone is really, but Wednesday at some point, maybe even Thursday, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna kind of chat about what's new in version 13. We're gonna have some guests popping in and out throughout the show to help kind of celebrate and have a good time and just hang out. So yeah, let's say hi to our panelists. And then as we get guests coming in, we will say hi to our guests. Joining us today, we've got Alyssa. Alyssa, what's going on?
Hey, so excited to be here.
Awesome. And Mike's with us. Mike, what's going on?
No, sorry, not too much. I was actually checking on my live upgrade to 13 for a project that I'm working on.
All right. It's in the progress of updating right now?
It's in process of running, yeah.
All right. All right.
Doing
Cool.
live, I'll report back any things that I find or what have you. I plan on just doing that in the build, make sure that everything's copacetic.
Everything's good. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Hey, Alyssa, so you wrote a blog post about some of the stuff that's updated in 13?
I did. And I'm going to get the link for us real quick. I was tweeting our tweet of awesomeness. Let's see. So
Awesome.
Let me pull that up.
All right. While you're doing that, it looks like we might have our first guest in the green room. Mike, do you want to try and coordinate with our guests to see if they're ready to come on the show and I can bring them on? Maybe through the chat or something.
I can do that.
Awesome.
I don't have visibility to the green room.
Or maybe our guests can just give us a thumbs up in the video if they're ready to come on, and I can just click them and bring them in. But I'll figure out. All right. Alyssa, just let me know when you're ready to.
Yes, I will share screen. I'm pulling it up.
So this will be a surprise to us. I'm not sure who's in our green room.
Oh, you don't see?
No, I don't see anything.
Yeah, unless we're like,
can you chat with them? Like, sure, mystery person. All right.
Pulling this up and putting it over here. And I'm going to share it. Share. Window.
It's like the dating game is like, what feature is behind door number 1?
All right. Let's add your post to the stream and let's bring our guest in. All right, our first guest. Here we go. It's Igor.
Hey,
Hello.
What?
How's it going?
Funny.
We've never staged. I don't think we've ever really staged people in the green room. So we just weren't ready to. How are we going to tackle this? Or I wasn't ready. But
I see. And I'm not used to using StreamYard myself, so I didn't know that you didn't know who I was. So,
so I can see because I'm the main logged in person, so I can see who's in the green room, but apparently our guest can't see. So when I tasked Mike,
Justin is the overseer.
I guess so. Yeah. Unfortunately, I try to give everybody else that power, but they don't have that yet. So I don't know. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Right? Yeah, long time no for you on AngularAir, but long time no talk for us. But yeah, how's it going?
I'm excited that v13 is out. It's been a long time coming, and there are lots of big milestones under the hood that are starting to bring benefits to the community, which is great.
Nice. It's one of those things I think I saw Minko posted something about Ivy everywhere. Is that a thing now? What's that all about?
Yeah, we have deleted ViewEngine, or at least broke it. It's not fully deleted yet from the Git repository, but it's broken. You cannot use it. It throws exceptions if you try, which is good.
Good. Yeah.
So that was our way of ensuring that we didn't forget about something, because with so many there's so much that depended on ViewEngine, and we had to redo one thing at a time. And the last piece was, let's break it so that we know that nobody's using it anymore, and that's the current state of ViewEngine. So yeah,
nice.
That's interesting.
I think
so how do you go about
oh, sorry, you go, Mike. You go.
Yeah. How do you go about intentionally breaking ViewEngine? Because I know a lot of the tooling built around frameworks, and especially using TypeScript, prevent you from breaking things. So what did you do to break it?
We throw an exception. So if you actually go down through the code into ViewEngine, the first thing you're greeted with is throw an exception, and it just says this no longer works. And if you are the lucky one to see this, please let us know, because we don't know how you managed to execute this code. And this was primarily done at Google, where like there's gazillion dependencies on Angular, and really finding out. And in the monorepo, like sometimes these dependencies can be hidden. So throw an exception is the safe way to ensure that nobody can use this.
That's a good point. Alyssa, you were going to ask a question that I couldn't cut
Oh
you
yeah,
off.
I think the only gotcha, because you're saying how hopefully nobody sees this, like who's gonna see this exception message, is maybe I like really Jonas put it in this tweet of fellow library authors. Let's move enable Ivy false to compilation mode partial, and talking about, like, I wrote this in my blog post as well, about like really I think the only people who are going to be like, oh, are people who've like building large libraries and maybe haven't made that switch yet. And so it is time.
Yeah, so in v13 you cannot enable or disable the flag that allowed you to build things in the engine. So enable Ivy is no longer a thing in tsconfig. So as a library author, you cannot use it with v13. I'm sorry, I think if you hear a lot of background noise, it's me. There's somebody right here with hedge trimmer or something.
Oh, okay. Wait, I'm not picking it up.
Okay,
but,
good.
or, I don't know.
Good.
Yeah.
It's like
I was
background
on a
music.
call just prior to this, and they're like, "Is somebody mowing lawn next to you?" I was like,
Nice.
So back to library authors. Yes, so as soon as library authors upgrade to v13, they'll just start using Ivy, and there is no other choice. Ivy is the thing. And it's good for everybody. It's going to make publishing NPM packages faster and easier, because there's the build system is faster with Ivy. But it's also better for consumers of the libraries, because we no longer need NGCC to translate the legacy package to Ivy compatible package. So in the past, if you were annoyed by seeing NGC compiling for NGCC or something like that, a message in your build system, as soon as you update libraries you depend on to libraries that were built with Ivy, that message is no longer there, because that step is unnecessary. There is still something we call partial compilation, but that one is super fast and much more efficient than NGCC.
Does it also make then the published library smaller, being that they're using Ivy instead of Vue Engine?
Yes, primarily because of the changes to the package format. So not changes to because the legacy libraries were translated to Ivy through NGCC. So you already got all those benefits in prior versions. But the benefits you will get in version 13 is that the package format now uses ES 2020 as the default language level, which means that depending on which browser you're targeting or what language level you're targeting, we have a higher fidelity to start with. So we don't need to download, like, all of the things are not already down leveled. And there's no way to go from, well, it's very difficult to go from like ES5 or ES 2015 to higher level. There are tricks, but it's very difficult, and it's usually not done. But going from higher level like ES 2020 down to, let's say you need ES 2018, because that's what your browsers that you're targeting need, going from that to ES 2018 means that you don't need to downlevel some of the things that you would otherwise downlevel if you were targeting ES 2015. That makes sense. So there are benefits, Payloads has benefits in that way. And also the downleveling is cheaper, because you don't need to go through so many different phases and downlevel so many different constructs.
Nice. So what does this mean for like library authors that still need to build their libraries supporting older versions of Angular?
That's the only wrinkle that I was actually going to talk about, because I don't want to dodge that. We know that some of the library authors will be hesitant about jumping to v13, because they're like, well, we have customers that are still using Angular v10 or v12, and if we go to v13, then our library is not going to be compatible with them. Yes, it won't be. And what we suggest is that you use branches just like Angular does. and maintain 2 branches. So one for your legacy customers and one for the latest. I think everybody's eager to get to the latest version of Angular because there are so many benefits associated with that. And if library authors are hesitant, they're actually going to remove some of the benefits of being on the latest version of Angular. So there is a little bit of cost of having 2 branches, one for legacy, one for the latest. But in the end, it's going to be worth it for both the library authors as well as for their customers and consumers. So please do it.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, it's always interesting to like think about like when you're building a library for a framework or a platform, like when do you make the decision? Do you just align your versioning with that versioning, right? And so then that way you can do that, or do you do that other approach where you're like, well, I'm gonna have a version. It's like, how do you make it easy for the consumer to align things on their end? As least friction as possible, right?
I was in Boston like a week and a half ago talking to my team about this. I'm a dev advocate at Kendo UI, and so we build components, and we have a component library for Angular. And this was one of the big things we were talking about because we haven't exactly, how do I put it? We haven't exactly warned our customers like that, hey, there's a big change coming, and we're like, oh, we probably should have told them, because we're talking about, this is the point in our our library's history where we're going to have to branch, because we haven't really had to do that yet. And so we were talking about how long we're going to have an LTS on that older branch for customers who just can't get up to 13 yet for whatever reason. And so or 14, whenever that that change happens for us. And so luckily, I don't know, so far we've had understanding clients, but I think that's the hard part, is when you're building something for other people, so you can't force them to update, so that is the hard part. But I'm excited about us moving forward, and I was reading through all the things that Mark listed out as far as positive changes that essentially letting go of View Engine is going to allow us to do and move forward to. So I think it's good.
Awesome. Emma's joined us. Emma, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Hi.
Doing good. Good to see you. Yeah. We're just celebrating the release here, talking about some of the features. We just started kind of getting into the different features that are available with the new release.
I know. This is helpful. I wrote like a draft of the APF thing, and I talked with Mark a bunch about it. But the more I hear people talk about it, the more familiar it gets, right? Like you may have been familiar of like Ivy library distribution was something that like the team was talking about when I joined, and then it switched into like Angular package format. I don't know. I feel like this has gone through a lot of iterations of sort of the same thing, but like all to the same end, which is now like API. So
maybe we could talk a little bit about this Angular package format and kind of help our viewers understand what that is and stuff.
Sure. Do you want to click on the link you have right in front of you? Now we
new
one of
docs,
the
new docs.
new docs. So previously,
can I ask sorry to interrupt? Can I ask a real quick question about this? I know that we're going to dive into it about what the package format is, but for the vast majority of Angular application developers, this should be of no impact to them, just something to be aware of that's happening underneath the scenes that the CLI is taking advantage of.
Yep.
So it's pretty transparent to you as an application developer, but it's always nice to know what's happening under the hood as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that, Mike. So all of or not all of them, but most of the great majority of library authors have been using APF, and actually everybody who uses Angular have been using APF. You just don't know about it. And what APF is, it's just a very specific layout of a npm package that we developed for Angular and all of the Angular libraries that enables us to be compatible with as many use cases and tools as possible, while also enabling optimizations and faster builds that would otherwise not be possible if you were just using CJS or UMDs. People often distribute the npm libraries as UMDs. If you do that, then you kind of lost already, because you're shipping you're shipping a format that is very universal and can be used everywhere, but cannot be optimized. And that then slows down your build system. That results in big payload sizes, difficult to code split or impossible to code split. So for many reasons, including faster builds and better payload size optimizations, we developed a custom format that is based on ES modules and specific layout of NPM package with additional metadata that is not, anybody could use this format. This format is not Angular specific, even though it has the Angular name. The only thing that is Angular specific is that we ship Angular libraries using it, but anybody could use it. And it's, you can think of it as universal binary that Apple developed for their transition from PowerPC to Intel and then Intel to M1. Apple's doing similar thing in their distribution format. APF is that thing for us and allows us to transition from ES5 and CJS to ES 2015 and now ES 2020 without people consuming these packages actually noticing.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. So what else we got here in terms of new stuff? Any other new stuff?
Emma, what's your favorite feature?
Oh no, you're muted, or at least for me.
Oh, you'd have to scroll down. Sorry, I have too many ways to mute myself. Okay. Yeah, you'd have to scroll down to components. That's where I get excited. And I have a separate blog post that this links to, all about all the updates to components. Oh, that's the docs. You'd have to scroll down. But maybe it's in the work we've done. Oh no, yeah.
I know. I was like, I know you wrote one. I didn't know. I was like, which link is it?
No, yeah. But yeah, components has spent the better part of a couple quarters really focused on doing a pretty comprehensive accessibility review. And that review was internal. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that one of the largest consumers of Angular material components is Google. And Google wants to make sure that we're like building accessible apps from a component side. I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of ways to review applications for accessibility. You can say like, I built this e-commerce app and I want to review it for accessibility. But doing that for a framework is really hard, or doing that for a component library is really hard because a lot of it comes down to like, how do you as a user use the component library and make sure that it's still accessible? So this blog post goes into a pretty comprehensive review of all of the different changes that went through. And there's some really cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff with like dialogues where we make sure that when you open a dialogue, you can like set where the autofocus goes much more intuitively. And you can, like we're making sure we're announcing things on screen readers, right? And a lot of this is just built in, right? So this lands like you ng update your Angular material and like there's a lot of just built-in accessibility there. High contrast mode I thought was really cool. I also like spend some time working on CSS DevRel now. And high contrast mode is this thing that's only in Windows applications or like Windows internet browsers. But high contrast mode is like, yeah, that image sort of shows it, right? But it's this idea that if a user says they want to see stuff with really high contrast, so you basically remove a lot of the color, you make the background black essentially, and everything stands out with like really bright, vibrant whites to make sure if you are somebody that is prone to migraines or things like that, or you need to see high contrast for visual impairments. This is like not something that WCAG or any accessibility guidelines talks about. It's not something that's required to like pass the bar, but I think it's really cool that like most of our components now meet the needs of people who are using these other features for accessibility reasons. And it's all built in, right? Like I think the coolest thing is it's all built in. You ng update, you're getting these accessibility improvements. It's like setting the tone for like, we care about these things. And I think that's important. Yeah.
So I know like the CDK is kind of the functionality lower level, right? But does any of this maybe make its way in there where if we're not using material design, but we want to leverage some help with accessibility, is there anything available for that? Or is this purely at that Angular material level?
Yeah, no. So the top of this sort of talks, I go through package by package just because that was like, we did a bunch of changes. I want to make sure you know what we actually changed. Because we keep saying like we fixed accessibility, but like what did we actually do? So if you're using the CDK Ally package, there's some like pretty great enhancements there. I think the biggest one is that we changed how we detect mouse and click events. So if you're doing anything with CDK Ally, which hopefully you're relying on for adding accessibility to whatever components you're writing, a pretty common, as in like the most common thing, is to use like the focus monitor there. I'd say that's like the highest used Ally thing within the CDK. And we had a bunch of tricks for like how we were detecting different mouse events. And there were ways that screen readers weren't being caught. So like you would try and mouse versus keyboard versus click. And they pretty much overhauled that. So instead of doing it in a hacky way, it like works 100% of the time on like 100% compatibility. So that catches a bunch of things automatically, right? That you're like actually catching keyboard focus and mouse focus, which is like the core base of like a lot of the other changes happening, right? So yeah, I think that's a cool one.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I think so. Whenever I read this about MDC components, I know, was it a version or two ago that like the components started using MDC components as their base? Like, can you explain that to me real quick? Because I always get confused with in regards to MDC components versus material components, and now they're one or something.
Yeah, no, it's confusing. I saw a bunch of questions in the chat, and like to be brutally honest, I think material kind of makes it harder to get like. I mean, we are not material. We like consume material. Material has a bunch of names, right? There's like Google I/O talks about like material U, but now there's like material 3, and I'm like, okay, but like, are we on numbers or letters? I don't know.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like .NET Core, .NET Standard, .NET. I'm like, the names are so much.
I know, people are like, I'm a .NET developer. And I'm like, what? Okay. I'm sorry. I really am trying. If you can explain it to me, I really want to know. But at the core, Material has come out with like a 2020/2022 now set of specs that are completely updated. So Angular Material is currently on 2016 specs, which is before I graduated college, just to like age it a little bit, or make myself sound young. I don't know. So MDC components are still experimental, and MDC components are the idea that instead of us having to manually update the specs from 2016 to 2018, from 2018 to 2020, from 2020 to 2022, because we're now several versions sort of behind on those specs, we can just consume a set of primitives that MDC publishes so that whenever they decide that they're going to change from like material U to material 3 to material me, I don't know, we don't have to do anything. We just say, oh, you've changed the color a little bit. Doesn't matter for us. We're consuming the primitives. Those are still experimental. So MDC Web-Based Components are experimental. The goal is to make them the primary components in the next couple of years or the next couple of releases. So I don't know. We don't say numbers, but somewhere around version 14, 15, those will become the base. And the idea there is just that whatever the current specs are that MDC is publishing, we consume, and that's what we deliver to users so that we don't have to worry about designers changing their mind on small things. Right. Along with that is this other idea of material U, which is like customization, which is going to be really cool. And there's not a lot of talk of like what it looks like on the web yet from the material side, but the idea is like mass customization. So like for the 1 million NPM downloads of Angular material, everyone is like custom overriding things. Like, I know you do it, I do it.
I would never change the base color of a component. That is not me.
Yeah, I sense a lot of sarcasm there. Yeah, so MDC isn't actually stable. So if you use Angular Material now, you're not using MDC, but you will be
Okay.
soon. Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Whenever they first were introducing it, I was like, is this something? It sounds like it's nothing that consumers of Angular Material have to worry about, other than the fact that like it sounds like we'll be up to date more often with the standards.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it will be a big update for like enterprise developers when you make that shift. So the idea is that when we update it so that Angular Material MDC components are the main components, you will migrate to the legacy components automatically. So we're not going to push you to the new button. Like if you're using a button, you will use the legacy button in that update, probably. There will be a main new button that we encourage you to use that is stable, that is by default if you are ng-newing and using a new button.
Right.
But you will have to migrate, because if you did any of those custom overrides and you're doing like selectors of internal DOM elements or like CSS tricks, you're going to have to migrate that. And like, it's not the same implementation. And so we want to make sure that you are not.
That makes total sense, because if you just kind of ripped it out from under everyone, they'd be like, wait, what? Where did my button go?
Yeah. So I would, yeah, I'd love to talk. If anyone is like worried about that, I'd love to talk to you about it. That's something the team is like, DevRel is highly like talking about this right now, because we want to make sure it's like possible. The API is the same. Like if you use Material and you don't do anything hacky, easy update.
Okay.
But I like to do CSS tricks, and I know that other people do too. And it is hard for us, probably. Yeah.
So Chris in the chat brings up a good point that I'm kind of thinking about as well too. And it's, you know, if it sounds like if we're using Material, then we can kind of get this benefit, right, of some automatic wiring up for accessibility stuff. But if we're not, like, how can people get to a point where when they go to build their components, if they're building a button or something, like, is that something that the platform could just somehow provide that everybody just gets without thinking about it, right? I don't know how you get there, but yeah, sort of process where, you know, as a developer, you don't have to remember to apply accessibility. It's just almost like de facto on a component or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get there on the web. I think you will always have to, as a developer, know about accessibility, because you know the business. It's almost like a business use case, right? So I don't know the business use case you're trying to fulfill. So I don't know the like UX user story for it. So the same way you test for like, when I click this button, I can still like make a payment on my credit card or whatever. You have to test that like that works with accessibility on too. So it's not going to be like an out of the box thing. I do think that there's things we can do to improve it. I'm really excited about, there's like some PRs open for things like in the framework, like adding a page title automatically, because Angular is a single page application. I saw like every single page framework makes accessibility harder because it's not always baked in, right? Like we can bake in page titles, and that's like a core component of accessibility. So I think it's cool. I think we can push the bounds on what that looks like for frameworks. And I think that Angular is thinking about how to do that, but it is sort of the forefront. So like, how do you bake in things? I don't know.
Right.
And I'm just going to add that this is not a web-specific problem. This is problem specific to any kind of platform or UI framework that allows you to build UI components using low-level primitives. Just think Canvas. Is Canvas accessible? Not really.
Right.
If you take a bunch of divs and create a beautiful button out of this, how is the browser supposed to know that this is a button? It looks like a button to your eyes and to your mouse when you click on it, but the browser cannot know that this is actually meant to be used as a button. So that's the semantic meaning that is missing, and you have to provide that using the ARIA tags. So we need to do better, and we are working on tooling to make accessibility something that is out there and part of the day-to-day development. if you use components like material components or CDK, they already come with accessibility built in. And that is one of the biggest value propositions for any component library that you use, because almost everybody that is in the business of creating reusable components thinks about accessibility. So whenever you can use these components so that you don't have to think about accessibility, because it's not easy. But yeah, even just using these components alone doesn't guarantee that your application is going to be accessible, because how you put them together also matters. And there's a semantic meaning that is lost and you need to add into your application.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. It's almost like I want the CDK, but for the UI pieces that doesn't have material bound with it, right? But sourced out where I can get it from Angular, right? That then applies all those sort of things for me, right? Applies
That's what
the right
CDK is.
elements and things like that.
That's what CDK is. It's the unstyled, unopinionated widget framework that you can put your look and feel on top of.
So I guess what you're saying is I need to look into contributing more to CDK or start contributing to CDK to add more features in there, and then everybody will have that.
100%.
Got it.
And that's part of the idea, right? If we use MDC, if we offload like the minute spec changes and other things to other teams, like hopefully that means we can work on CDK, right? Or at least I know that's what that team is excited about possibly doing, potentially. I don't know.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we got? Any other updates in 13 that are
so
exciting? Test.
There was a lot. Yeah, well, it looks like the testbed default changed for new Angular 13 apps.
I can add a little context to that, and then I need to drop off because I have other things going on. And I plan to be here just for a few minutes because I was told
I know,
you
I'm
have
so
10
sorry.
minutes, and then we'll cut you.
I know, Igor, you go. You go, Igor.
Okay, Emma, do you have this one?
Yeah, I can do that one.
Okay, awesome. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for stopping
Thanks,
by.
Igor, for dropping by. I
Igor.
appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks
bye.
for the release.
Okay. Well, Igor has defaulted it to me. Yeah, so before, in the land of before, like long story short, there were things that were still on your DOM in between tests. So like you could run a test and you could be like, why is this failing? It should pass. And there was like weird stuff still in there because we didn't tear down everything. So we weren't cleaning the full DOM. And what that meant is like your test was starting up and it just was slower. It was like slower and it like was not actually running as like an independent test in your test suite. Or it was trying to, but we weren't doing the best job at it. So now we have some new, like we have this teardown option we introduced so that you can make sure that you're actually tearing down everything in between tests. And you can either set it for your entire test environment or per test. If you're like concerned that maybe it's going to like actually like, maybe your tests are passing when they shouldn't, or maybe you think that that's going to break some tests, like you can introduce it slowly with the individual resets. But yeah, it's just this teardown option. Your screen is like a little bit small for me if you want to zoom in.
Is this better? Is that?
Yeah. So it's just this, yeah. It's just this destroy after each true in teardown.
Right. And I saw below that it had like for, I guess, per module, if you're doing that right there.
Yeah.
But, okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So before you have to go, because I did promise everybody that if they only wanted to hop in for 10 minutes, I had a question around font inlining. And so, and I have not watched this video. It might answer the question, but I saw that as of this version, Adobe fonts can be inlined now. Like when you look at like how to inline fonts, isn't it just like a config option? Like you're not specifying, I want to only inline my Google fonts, but not my Adobe fonts, right? Like if you inline font, it's doing
no. So this is completely, this has no change on your side. Like if you are a developer, the CLI is just going to do this. And so this is like purely Alan on the CLI team just introduced. We started with Google fonts because most of us are paid by Google, and like Angular, it makes sense for Angular material, right? Angular material sits on a lot of Google fonts. So it's like a good way for us to initially try. the next largest one, or probably even larger than Google, I have no idea, is Adobe Fonts. And so when your CLI is building, it's just going to make sure that it inlines those.
Okay.
And the big thing here is hopefully you can see a change in your FCP or First Contentful Paint, which is where you're actually like, that's one of the core web vitals. So if you're running like Lighthouse core web vitals on your application, you can open up and you can see in your HTML that those fonts are actually inlined. And so essentially, yeah, if you click that, like the first time you try and like load your page and see how quickly it gets like fully there, should be faster because we're inlining how you load those. So it's like almost like an async way to bring in fonts.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure that I didn't miss something like a config option or something for what type of font it is. So okay.
No. You don't have to tell us what kind of fonts. And call out if you're using another font library that you think we should be inlining, please let us know or open an issue or tag me because we can continue, right? Like there's no reason we aren't inlining other fonts.
Thank you. That was a beautiful explanation on all of the things. Like,
yeah, there's a good tweet by Addie from the Chrome team who works on Core Web Vitals about Angular has seen like a huge improvement in Core Web Vital scores just by like sort of natural updates. Like this is one of them. Here, I'll give you the tweet.
I was like looking through. I have like, I'm so nerdy. I have like a list of recent Angular tweets. I like linked to myself in my like Slack DM. So I was like, is it one of these tweets? Okay.
No, it's this one.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I just sent you a DM. But hi, Mark.
Right.
We're talking about your video on font inlining or resource inlining.
That video is a greatest hits video, so thank you so much for talking about it.
Of course.
I got
and then you linked it in your blog post. So
might have like gone a little bit too big here, but
no, you're good. But yeah, basically in the last year, Angular has seen like a pretty wide improvement just in like core web vital scores of targets. This is coming from like Chrome team metrics of core web vitals. And like this is one of them, right? So First Contentful Paint, we are improving with inlining resources, and that contributes to this score. We're doing pretty well. And
yeah, I love that. Also, there's Mark? I was like, someone said hi to Mark, but I don't see him. He's like right above me. Sorry guys. He's Emma. Also, if you need to go, we were just promising to pop in, pop out. So at any point that you need to hop off, no pressures. Hi, Mark.
I'm good, but I'm late.
Hey. How you folks doing? What's going on?
My goodness. So excited about v13. And 14, if we're really honest. I mean, there's some really cool RFCs out right now that I'm like, hey, what's 14 gonna look like? But like that's next year. So.
Right, exactly. We just launched v13, so we gotta just enjoy that moment for a while. But the future is so bright. Maybe you have to wear shades.
But all right, but let me break it down. Basically, a lot of the really cool things that we're seeing in 13, I believe, are because of like the rendering engine changes, letting go of the past, moving forward, and it's kind of opening this door that I can kind of see, like the like Wizard of Oz, like there's like a rainbow behind the door and maybe a leprechaun. So I'm like, it's really hard to not look at a leprechaun. I get that we've got a lot of cool stuff. So sorry, I'll close the door.
Yeah. I was just agreeing with you. Wasn't interrupting.
Sorry.
Just agreeing.
And I love the post that you wrote. We were scrolling through earlier, checking out the goods. I don't know how you turn. Let me show this one. I don't know how you turn this into this. Do you just want to like tell me like your secrets real quick, because impressed.
Thank you. So little do people know, the blog is a real labor of love. It takes a lot of work to get this blog together, and lots of collaboration amongst the Angular team, because I don't write in a vacuum. I usually write something and then I'm like, okay, this is what I think all this means, and I'm just going to write it the way I think it means. And then I would say, okay, hey, Igor, what do you think? Did I say this right? Or I say, hey, Alex, or you know,
Right.
and then Emma will come in and be like, hey, Mark, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, you're right. Let me untwist. And then, you know, in the last part of the blog process is demarkifying it a bit. So like I come in super hot with my like language and like style. And so then we have to like get the tone to be, you can still tell that I wrote it, but so it feels more representative of the team. Because I'm just like, hey, yo, we're back in the building with another blog. And they're like, okay, Mark, so can we try a little, you know, bring it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. Like, all right, fine. And we're back with another blog post. I'm so excited.
You know what we need is like just on the site, the docs site, where you can choose what version of Angular you want the docs for.
Oh my
If we could
gosh,
just
yes.
choose the version of the blog post, right?
You toggle the tone of the post, right?
Because I absolutely want to read that post, Mark.
I want the
absolutely
Mark
do.
post or I want the generic post, right? Like, yeah.
Listen. Don't even give me ideas. They have a hard enough time containing me right now.
So
all right,
is that part of the I-18N? Is that going to be like one of the translations? Is Mark Thompson one of the languages?
Stop.
Oh my
playing.
gosh. That is funny.
So it's the EN-MT version of the I-18N. That's the one, the Mark Thompson English.
I'm already refreshing.
Yes,
oh
please.
my gosh. I actually
it's a lot of fun though.
Is this part the thank yous? Are these generated or does somebody write these out? Do you guys know?
They're generated.
They're
generated, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're generated based on, if you've ever contributed to Angular, it's super confusing because it looks like your PR gets closed. But it actually is just getting like, the commit is getting like cherry picked into the merge essentially. And when that cherry picking happens, it takes the PR author to make sure that we
that makes me so happy because when I was looking through, if we go down to the bottom of 13 and I was looking at this like long list and I was like, did someone type this out? Is this on somebody who, you know, like with this special thanks? Good Lordy. That was a long list. So this is what.
Oh yeah. See, some of them like Minko says Mdc because it like
grabs it's like their GitHub name or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I was like, please tell me this is automated. But this is what I was talking about. If you just watched me scroll through this, like this is what Mark turns, like he takes this robot speak of, you know, like stuff. And then he turns it into like human readable where we're all like, oh, I understand the world now. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that all of you go through.
But I will just say, I don't want to take full credit for this because Emma played a huge part in rallying together on some of the feature explanations as well. So I can't take full credit and be like, yo, yeah, I'm like, you know, I'm the one who did everything. When everybody knows it's me, this is my world. I just got to be clear. It's just me. I'm the Angular team.
Yeah.
Just me.
Vibes. That's another I-18N translation. That version.
Right. It's just me, the Angular team by myself. But yeah, Angular v13 is super dope. And I will be honest with you, I know we've been talking about this, but I'll tell you what I'm really excited about. I'm excited about not using Ivy or View Engine in language anymore. Just in general. Because
this one.
It should just fade away. Yeah. It should just fade away. Like people shouldn't need to know which rendering engine we're talking about and Ivy-based features and View Engine. Like I don't want people to even mention that anymore. I'm ready for just Angular again.
Yeah, no, we talked about it earlier, and this was a big one that had my team sweating. So we write Kendo UI is a component library for Angular, but a lot of our clients, I don't know what their reasons are. There's a lot of them for we can't update or we won't update. And so now we're at that point we were talking about with Igor of like splitting and having, support for that older branch and moving forward. But I'm honestly right there with you, Mark. I'm really excited. And I think as soon as we can get everyone past this hump to move forward, it'll be really cool. Really cool. Hey, we've got a new, hi, Alyssa.
Hey. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, I just thought I'd come by and say hello and talk a little bit about that Energy Girl as well.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna bounce. I'll leave with my question, which is, Alyssa, what's your favorite thing you're looking forward to of v13/NG Girls? Okay, bye.
Well, she immediately passed the mic to you and bounced. So it's all on you. It's all on you, Alyssa. That was for you, not me, by the way.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention that we have a couple of upcoming workshops. It's really exciting. First ones.
Do you have
in
any
person.
links for me? Because I can pull them up and like show them on screen while we talk about them.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Plop it in the private chat, and then we'll make sure they make it over to the real chat. There's always like fun issues with link sharing in YouTube. So Justin has to be the one to share. But yes. Okay. Oh, that's perfect.
Yes. This
awesome.
is our first in-person event since, last year, right? So this is going to be super exciting. We have two, one at NG Poland and one at NG Belgium.
Ooh. Wow. Are you excited? Are you nervous? In person?
In person, yeah, a little bit of both. To see how things going to play out, if people are really interested in, coming back in person or not, see how that kind of goes. This is going to be really exciting, and like our first one without virtual mentors, virtual things. So it'll be a completely different experience.
Oh yeah.
So,
As someone who is teaching like workshops the last couple of years, like virtually, it is different than in person. And so I'm excited for you all. Did you by any chance update the NG Girls material to 13? Did that?
Not yet, but we will be using Angular v13, of course, for the workshop. So that should be a lot of fun.
I don't know what face Mark is making, but I think it's at you, not me. So I'm gonna back away slowly.
So I was super lucky to have the opportunity to teach at NG Girls at one of the events. Such an amazing program, an amazing thing. Can you probably just fill in our viewers a little bit about just the top level, what it is, what it's all about?
Yeah, for sure. So it is a introductory workshop for women to learn to build their first Angular application. It is very beginner friendly, and we have mentors who are web developers or people with Angular experience join in and help coach the participants through the tutorial. So we have a tutorial to build a to-do app that you work through. So each workshop is held a little bit differently. Some might be in little teams, some might be a bit more individual. Of course, once again, going back to in-person could be very different than how we had to handle it for virtually. But so every workshop has a little bit unique flavor on how they do that, which is really cool. And the wonderful thing about partnering with both NG Poland and NG Belgium is that there's participants can also join in on the conference. There might be special discount codes, or there might be even like just tickets to attend, so which is very, very cool. Mentoring is open to everyone. So please, if you're interested in working on your mentoring skills or really looking to help lower barriers in tech, then please sign up. There's a application for both attendees and for mentors, and applications do close soon for NG Poland, so you don't want to miss that opportunity.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting as a mentor, to be able to have that opportunity here, because a lot of times when you're teaching, you're usually teaching people that are already in the development path or something like that, right? But here's an opportunity where you'll have that, but you also have people that are just trying to get into it. And so you get to not only teach them how to do something, help guide them along that, but help build that excitement about what it is they're getting into, right? And then take a different understanding of how do you mentor somebody that's just coming in, to the development world, which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest things to really think about is really creating that safe space for learning, right? I think as developers, we learn all the time. And for somebody who is brand new into tech, they think, oh, these senior developers, I got everything figured out. Like how I have to Google everything. Like we have to Google everything, right? So just like really breaking down that barrier, making sure it's like building a learning environment, a safe learning environment. Like that's really the key role of the mentor.
Very cool.
Sure.
Well, you go, Mike.
Yeah, when you say beginner, you're comfortable bringing in somebody who has done nothing but open up a browser and surfed into Facebook or something like that, who is just basically saying, hey, I brought up maps and I was able to find my way to the local grocery store in the new town.
So we do ask for your experience level so we can help tailor you with mentors or your groups that might be at the either the same skill set as you are, or pair you up with like a more advanced versus not. So once again, that's dependent on each workshop and how they want to do that. But yes, right. We also have a HTML, CSS, JavaScript like overview session to help get you hit the ground running. So we kind of explain like what are websites, how is this made, right? And the tutorial is really step by step, so it can just guide you right through that process. And at the end, you feel so good because you've created something.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that is awesome. And that you can start from beginning or nothing essentially and walk out and you get to see as a mentor those aha moments of, oh, if I change this here, that's going to make that happen over here, and I can actually see that happening in real time. And that's to see that moment click where you understand that something I'm doing over here is affecting what's over here, in which way it's actually affecting it.
Yes,
very
yeah,
cool.
for sure. And I think that's really one of the most wonderful things about web development is you have that instant feedback, right? You can see as you're going along what's happening and how it changes.
Very, very true.
Yeah. This Alyssa and I were talking about that the other day, about the draw of web development, because you can do something and see it instantly and get that feedback that you've accomplished something and done something really cool right away. Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like the same thing with it, we're talking about the Angular update and the fact that we go from like 12 to 13 and you get this functionality and these features, right? And if the upgrade path is straightforward and low effort, then you're able to, that gets released, you can consume it, and now all of a sudden you can bring it into your app and see it, right away, deploy your app, and yeah, that level of time to market or whatever is so low when we're in this space, which is exciting.
Yeah, sure.
Very awesome.
Very cool. And I can't believe in-person's coming back. It's exciting. So I hope they're amazing workshops and they go really well.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you are not in Poland or Belgium and you are interested in joining at a NG Girls workshop, we'll have more next year. You also please feel free to reach out to us. There's an email address on that website. And if you want to set up your own, organize your own workshop as well, we're certainly open to that. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Nice.
Alyssa.
Nice.
Do you have anything about V13 you want to shout out about or talk about before you head out? I know we're quick pop-ins today.
Yeah, I am really excited about all the things that Ivy is bringing, and I'm just so ready to see like what is going to keep coming down the pipeline as a result of those changes. And I'm ready to like just really use the features. Very excited.
Yeah. Awesome.
That is cool.
Well, cool.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Awesome. So yeah.
So I have a feature that we haven't really talked about that I'm excited for.
Tell us.
And that is the build improvements and the performance improvements of the builds.
The build improvements. Sorry, let me see if I can find it.
I've heard numbers upwards of 20% faster builds coming out of the CLI. So I'm excited to start taking advantage of some of the improvements internally within there. And I'm sure that's partially rooted in the package format and all the other changes that are happening, as well as the tooling upgrades as well. Different versions of Webpack, and I think there's a few other tools that they're using that have upgraded as well. That things get better as you move forward. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, are you talking about this one in regards to defaults with new 13 projects with like those build speeds, or were you talking about something else?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Okay. Cool.
Cache builds, and I think there's some additional other tooling that there was. ES build, I think, was the one in particular. that incremental upgrade of ES build or the migration to, I'm not sure if it was new or an increment in version, also helped with a lot with the performance. Again, as I talked about earlier with Igor about what you need to worry about as an Angular developer creating an application. You don't need to know that there were build improvements. You just see that, hey, I ran a build and it ran faster. Cool. I didn't have to do anything. I don't have to spend any of my time away from concentrating on features for my users or anything like that. It's just there. I upgraded. I took that little bit of time to go through the upgrade process, and now I can take advantage of that. Sure, everything's Ivy now, but I don't have to worry about that because it's all under the hood.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have to sweat it. It just happens.
Yeah, that was something that Alyssa hit on, and that I was trying to say not so eloquently earlier about how, because of these things like that we're letting go of, like moving fully to Ivy and letting go of UEngine support, or like letting go of IE11 support. I think this paragraph was the one that talked about it, about so because we're removing that support, it's allowing us to use native web APIs, which means things like CSS variable support and web animation support, things that across the board we just couldn't have before. And so I'm excited because, to me, like, yes, that's what we get right now, but to me it's like that I feel like it is opening the door for other things like that the team can work on and add. And so I'm excited. I think it's a really cool time, and I think 2022 is going to be a neat place for Angular. So can't wait.
I think the one impact that users may come across with Vue Engine being gone is the fact that component factories aren't a thing anymore. And that's talked about under the component API section.
It was right here.
There you go.
So it's essentially, this
examples.
is how you did it. This is how you do it. Like, because this Vue container ref create component no longer takes the factory, right? Like, it now just takes a reference to the component class.
Correct.
And then you also don't have to throw it up here, and like, it's just, there's just no more factories.
All you need is the container and say, hey,
it's all gone.
Put this thing here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was, I think it talked about simplifying the API because of that. And so,
absolutely.
Okay. Like, I'm wondering, this is one of the things that, like, migrating will this do automatically, or like, do you know what happens whenever you update and you've got these?
I don't know. It's been a while since I've gone through and the steps that were above to create a factory, then to be able to resolve it, then to be able to create that component with the factory. It's been a long while since I've done that, so I don't have any code that I'm actually upgrading from 12 to 13 or to 13 from any previous version to verify that. So I'm not positive, but it would not surprise me if that was being handled.
If it just did it.
Yeah. I would imagine, because that's a lot of the goals with the upgrade process, and why ng update exists is to be able to take care of as much of this as possible.
Let's see. I want to go to what Justin just put in the chat and do show me an update, and then scroll down. It looks like you run. Sorry, I can make this a little bit bigger. So I think based on this, because I feel like it would tell you, you need to go and replace all your factories with class components and swap it all out. I feel like, wouldn't it?
Click on there's like an advanced button. You scroll up a little bit.
Up. Wait, there is.
Right there.
I'm looking. I'm not seeing. Aha! Look at you.
I don't know if it shows it here, but I think it starts telling you more information about these sort of things. Yeah.
Nice. For different. Yeah. Okay. So the render module factory now. I don't see it, but this is definitely the site to be at if you are updating and concerned about things or run into issues. I love this site. I'm so glad. I don't know, it hasn't always been here. I don't know. Do you guys remember what version it appeared in our lives?
I want to say 6 or 7.
It was not 2, let me tell you.
No,
right. The drop down shows you can do from 2, but yeah, it probably wasn't around at that point.
Very good stuff. Did we not, because I know we're coming up on we're there on the hour. Is there any other bits, anything else from?
I think it's interesting, like, to think about, are these versions now, are we getting closer to where there's not really a lot of new features that you're really using, and it's more of just refining the platform, right? And like, how much will that kind of keep playing as you go further and further in that version number? Is it just going to be stuff that we just get, and that's refinement under the hood, or where's there room for still new things to come in, right? I mean, we talked about material and CDK and stuff, and so those are kind of like side loaded additional things, and so those will grow. But the core itself, I wonder when it gets to a point where it's not really much more.
You're looking at the next big thing, though, right in front of you. We had a show a few weeks back about the standalone components. I think that's the direction that things will end up going. And what doors that will then open up is, once you have that, then what else is going to change as a result of that? Which is, again, we did an entire show on talking about that. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities that unlocks that would be coming then in future versions.
I think you're right, though, Shorty. I think we're getting to a point, like a very stable point. But I think like this is going to be, it'll shake things up a bit. But we are getting to the point where I don't think we have very many big game changers left to even do, right? I think I don't know. But I mean, .NET's been around for how long, and they keep shaking things up. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll just continue to be like, hey, let's totally rewrite the API. I don't know. It's a good idea, right? Like,
right. But you have to give credit to the Angular team that the upgrade process from everything from 6 on up has been rather straightforward. And they take a lot of care and a lot of time to make sure that process is as seamless as possible. So that when you run ng update, there's very little manual interaction that you need to take to be able to get there. And in that, we moved all the way from View Engine into IV completely, from a partial to making it optional, to making it available, to making it default, to now completely removing View Engine, or at least the execution of anything View Engine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even how they talk about in this RFC, how like they're thinking like to move us forward, it's very much in a so that everything doesn't break immediately way, right? Like to ease you into a big change. So you're absolutely right, Mike.
Yeah.
Incrementals.
So it's been seamless, but there's been large movements underneath the hood. It's just that to get from A to B and B to C and so forth has been rather seamless.
Yeah. I wanted to pull up this page because for us to end on, because a lot of, if you read Mark's blog post about v13, a lot of the changes were like, oh, based on this RFC and the feedback we got, this is what we implemented, or we decided to go ahead and do that in this version. And so I wanted to highlight the RFCs. If you go underneath discussion on the Angular page on GitHub, there's a little RFCs tab. Right now, there's only one out, but as they are coming out, it's really just them asking for comments, ideas, good feelings, bad feelings. And so they really do listen. And I think this is a really important page to bookmark and check in on, to be a part of the Angular community and to give that feedback.
Absolutely.
Nice. That's our pick, right? Everybody's pick is this right here.
Yeah.
Unless you have another pick.
Done. I don't. Here, I'm going to put it in the private chat so you can link people to it. But yes.
My pick would be the update.angular.io. If you have questions about what version you're on and how to get to 13, go check that out.
Nice.
It'll give you, say, this is where I'm coming from. This is where I want to go. What do I need to do to get there?
Perfect. Awesome.
Thanks for the show, guys. This was fun.
All right. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks to all our guests who are already gone, but we're very thankful that they shared their time with us.
Definitely a fun format.
All right. So if you haven't updated and you got a chance to update, go out and update. Hopefully it'll be easy, and then you'll get all this amazingness. Unless you're a library developer, then you need to consider the IV change and make a branch. And yeah. But awesome. All right.
Woo!
Well, that's a wrap. We will catch everybody next time. See you later.